Yeah, I don't know, man. You ever just feel like life is just catapulting towards some greater purpose?
Pampered fat cats with bloated ego. We are the only DJ crazy enough to tattoo Jackie Brown on his ass.
This is Michael Mann, and I ride with
Extended clip.
It's a classic slapstick situation. You're chasing after Boris. Yeah.
It's a real that darn cat situation.
That darn cat.
Yeah, they were showing the trailer for that at the New Bev for like a month straight, despite the fact that they weren't showing that movie.
I'm not
They were just
familiar.
like always showing that trailer for it. Will, have you seen that movie? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've not seen the Dean Jones original, nor have I seen the Dougie Doug 90s remake, even though I would have been the perfect age to see it. I wanted to see it when I was 8 years old, but I never did. So no, I am a that darn cat virgin. I have not had any experience.
But meanwhile, if you're a that darn cat virgin, you're a talking cat slam pig. You've seen that one plenty of times, right?
I have, but not lately. I think I'm ripe for a revisit of a talking cat. I love that, but I got a little distracted over the years with some of the side projects, like an Easter Bunny puppy, a Halloween, like, I don't know. He made like 10 or 15 of those that I got kind of into. And it, once you go down that rabbit hole, it's pretty easy to like forget the original,
He, of course, being David Dakota.
That is correct. Yes.
And the a talking cat voiced by Eric Roberts, is he in any of the Animal spin-offs?
He's in, let me see. I think he's in, it's been a while since I've seen these, but I think he's in an Easter Bunny puppy, because
Nice.
I remember he's actually in it physically. And I think he like transforms into the puppy and then he comes back.
Nice.
So, but maybe I'm just dreaming this. I don't know. They all kind of blur together.
But we are not talking about David Dakota today. We are talking about one of Will's other guys here on episode 435 of Extended Clip. I am one of your hosts, Eddie Averill.
I'm Malcolm Baum.
I'm JT White.
And I already gave him a soft intro, but returning to the pod once again, the host of the Important Cinema Club and Michael and Us, and now the author of Ed Wood, Made in Hollywood, USA. It's Will Sloan.
Thank you. And, you guys are a movie podcast, so you might enjoy. I'm drinking a beautiful Coke Zero, a fine 2025 vintage. And you see on the can, it has Yoda on it from Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
It does have Yoda from Star Wars, yeah.
And on top, it has the logo for Coca-Cola and it has the logo for Star Wars. But it's not, I don't think it's promoting any particular Star Wars thing. It's not promoting like The Mandalorian or Andor or any of these shows. It's just promoting the concept of Star Wars, which I find a little weird. Like just the kind of, why does Star Wars have to be a thing that's just like perpetually promoted like Coke is? I don't know. What do you think?
I've seen this roll out lately. When I was visiting New York like last month, on the way into the Met, I grabbed a Amidala Diet Coke. And yeah, so even like prequels characters getting branded Coca-Cola bottles these days when those movies are very out of fashion. It's odd, but you know what? I can't say I don't like seeing my buddies Yoda and Amidala.
Yeah, I had a sinister Darth Vader Coke yesterday when I had some halal. They had the full rollout of the Star Wars characters.
Interesting.
Hell yeah.
Interesting.
I think I don't even look at the bottle. I just rip it open and drink.
You just rip that shit up.
I just slug it down.
Now that I think of it, I guess like for as long as I've been conscious, there have always perpetually been like shirts and backpacks that have the Disney princesses on them.
Yeah.
Even if there's no new Cinderella products, but
Sure.
they're just like the icons are perpetually out there. And I guess they're doing that with Star Wars now. There doesn't have to be a new Star Wars thing. It's just they're Disney princesses now. They're perpetually on stuff.
I mean, they very much are Disney princesses now, the way that they're branded. I know this because my niece and nephews are of the perfect age for new Disney Star Wars content. And there's all these like animated shows on Disney Plus, and there are these like kids books where you learn about how Rey became like the strong girl soldier of the Force or whatever. And it's very much like structured like the kind of picture book that would end with Rapunzel getting saved or whatever, but instead it's about fighting against the galactic empire with the power of the Force.
And something's that big, that you got to just keep maintaining it. It's like I see like a Visa commercial, and it's like I don't even think they came out with a new card, but it's like you just got to keep the idea alive. Even if you have 12 TV shows on concurrently, do they feature the original Yoda who says the cool things in the cool way?
Your comparison to Visa took me aback, but I think Star Wars is treated with as much artistry as any given credit card company these days by Disney. So it is pretty much the same exact thing. It's just a money printing machine.
I know that George Lucas got a lot of flack when he said that he sold his characters to white slavers. And, while inelegantly worded, perhaps, I think we all know what he meant, and he was right.
Well, it was inelegantly worded because, like, Jar Jar's not white, so Bulba's not white. Like, Disney is not only enslaving whites.
Also, Watto isn't white.
Yeah,
right?
That's actually
right,
you
guys.
know what?
That's one of the big debates of our time right now.
There's a lot. It's very heavy right now, but as the one American Jew on this podcast, I am willing to say that I and Watto are both white.
Wow. Okay.
So you get to decide? Is that how that works?
Interesting.
Well,
yeah.
It's funny. All my friends in the online community say you're not, but okay. You're entitled to your opinion.
Identity politics does not work on me. Only money.
On that debate, maybe George Lucas should get the final say.
Is Watto white?
And then we could kind of progress as a society based off that.
All right. Well, anyway, I think that's enough of a preamble for this episode. We are here today to do something a little unconventional because, as I mentioned earlier, Will Sloan is currently on tour, like he's Neil Young himself, promoting this new book of his, Ed Wood, Made in Hollywood, USA. But I think Will may have had enough Ed Wood cinema for now. I there's all these screenings of Ed Wood movies attached to this book release tour, and I'm sure you watched all of, Ed Wood's movies over and over again in your preparation for the book and in your writing, and, sometimes you just need to balance that out with some quality cinema. So I was a bit surprised when you wanted to talk about Tommy Wiseau's The Room. I thought you were going to go with maybe some Kurosawa, some Kubrick, some Ozu. No, but we just wanted to talk about the concept of bad movies. Is that correct?
Yeah, and in retrospect, I probably should have gone with something good, but I don't know. I wanted to. You invited me on to talk about an Ed Wood movie, and I've, as you said, I've kind of had it up to here with all these Ed Wood movies. So I wanted to kind of maybe meet you halfway on the request and say, well, what about another bad movie guy? What about, I don't know, Tommy Wiseau? And as I sat down to watch The Room today, probably for the first time in like 10 years, I saw it a lot, before that. But haven't seen it in the last decade or so. And as I pressed play, I was really not all that excited to watch it, honestly, because like what is more played out than The Room? But then I remembered that was also kind of why I suggested it. I thought it might possibly be fun to talk about a completely played out bad movie phenomenon and see if we could squeeze a little bit more blood out of that stone, or just if we could rediscover what might have been fun about it, or alternately, maybe we could like say, actually, this wasn't fun, or this was just bad. I don't know. I was just curious
it's
what
a
would
great
happen.
Dramatic film, and I don't see why people are laughing so much at it. I think it's really serious, and you're being really flippant about domestic issues if you think this is such a funny movie.
We need to find a new angle on The Room.
Yeah.
My new angle. What a hot movie! Lots of hot
Yeah.
sex.
You know,
Yeah,
stuff to
what
jack
did
off to.
everybody? First of all, what did everybody think about Tommy's ass? Did
Yeah.
everybody enjoy Tommy's ass?
I was waiting for it those first 7.5 minutes until his ass is on screen. You're just waiting the whole time. It's some real Hitchcockian, you know, suspense versus surprise. Like if you've seen the movie before, you know that his ass is coming like 8 minutes in, and you just can't help yourself. Will, I like that you framed this as meeting halfway after me asking to talk about an Ed Wood movie, because me asking to talk about an Ed Wood movie was purely for the sake of your career. Like, this is your book. This is like, I don't need to talk about Ed Wood movies on this podcast. The first time you came on this podcast, we talked about an Ed Wood movie. We definitely could have just talked about, like, you know, you guys like Tokyo Story? You guys like that one?
Yeah.
I barely remember what goes on in it.
So I don't know what I was thinking. I think I just responded to your DM very quickly. I wasn't thinking about it too much. This is going to be, we're not going to do this for like weeks, months. And then, as the date came closer and closer, and I'm confronted with, oh, fuck, I have to watch The Room again.
Yeah.
This movie that is so worn out. But I don't know. Once it got going, once I found some chores to do while it was playing, I was having a pretty good time, you know, having this on. But I'm curious what you guys think, because I think you're all like around 5-ish years younger than me, which makes a difference when it comes to The Room fandom. I don't know if this movie meant I was like a really perfect age to love The Room when it was a cult phenomenon. I don't know if it means anything to you. Does it?
JT, were you into this? This would have been when you were in high school, maybe, that this was really popular?
Yeah, no, I was super into this movie. It like hit at like a perfect time and place. And I was honestly, I mean, I had a pretty similar experience to you, Will, where like in theory, I was like excited to revisit this because I was like I don't know, I think my entire concept, maybe not entire, but like my conception of movies has changed a lot since, like, I don't know, I was in like middle school and high school watching a bad movie and laughing at like I don't know, plot contrivances and things like that. Certainly there are some things in this movie that like I picked apart, and like, I don't know, all the hits that everyone like, the things that people find wrong about it are like there, but like the plotty, like more CinemaSins angle of criticism was something that I was less interested in. But like, I don't know, some things still hit. Like when the couple is like fooling around on the couch, and the one guy's getting sucked off. The expression he's making is still really good, and there's that like genuinely made me so happy that I still found that funny. But even beyond then, like I don't know, I was like really deeply into movies. I forced a lot of my friends to watch this movie like at a young age because I was like, oh, this is something fun to pick apart and make fun of. I went to like a few screenings of The Room, like in Philly, like I think like my freshman year of college. There was one point like I got into it like right around the time Greg Sestero was like touring for the Disaster Artist book, and at the venue Philomoka in like 2014, they did an event where Sestero was like reading from the book and reading from the Room script, and I got to act as Tommy Wiseau along stage with him doing the final party scene. I don't know, it was fun. And so there's a deep fondness for The Room. And I met, like, I don't know, Tommy, I feel like probably still is even going to a million of these screenings. And when Nico and I were in college, we had Tommy bless like a script that we were working on. He signed it for us. He was wearing like 2 belts. And
Yes.
signed my name as at first he signed it as G and T, and then I was like, no, it's JT. and then he just made the G bigger to go over the and sign. Yeah, so I don't know. I have quite a history with the movie, and it was mostly boring this time around, but fun to like go through the whole project of reconsidering what like a bad movie is to me.
What about you, Malcolm? Because if Will's 5 years older than JT and I, then he's almost got a decade on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 20 years older than you.
Well, come on, guys. Let's be nice. Like, when did the whole Room stuff pop up? Because I definitely watched The Room with like some internet friends back when I was in high school, but it kind of felt like, it wasn't like
it was
a
already
current
past the prime
thing. Like,
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that in the city of Toronto, we had a theater called the Royal, which in 2009 started doing midnight screenings of it, and Adam Naiman wrote a big cover story about The Room for one of our alt weeklies, like in summer of 2009. And that year, it felt like such a cool, like, insider phenomenon. It's like, oh, this thing that like freaking Patton Oswalt and David Cross is coming to our city now. And then 2011 was the year that I met Mr. Wiseau. Actually, he came to town. I met him at a little mixer. They invited a bunch of, dorky white men, critic journalist types to sort of sit around a table with Tommy. And then the next day I got to interview him. He was also wearing two belts, one around his waist, one that kind of went under his ass. Like his ass was sort of like between the belts. And at the little mixer, I remember he was very blatantly, very aggressively, in a very Tommy Wiseau way, hitting on my girlfriend, which I didn't even feel all that insulted by, because it's like, it was such a novelty, right? Oh wow, Tommy Wiseau is doing this in front of me. That's the ultimate Tommy experience. So anyway, 2011 was, I guess, when it was kind of at its peak for me. That's a digression.
Yeah, I think 2010 is when I at least went to a screening of it. So 2009, 2010. By then, I remember reading online that like Jonah Hill and Seth Rogen liked it, and like I think Jonah Hill made his profile picture on MySpace, that of Tommy Wiseau, back in the day, and I was like, all right, so this thing has some cred, and because I had seen some like early YouTube stuff of it or whatever, and then my friend group got really into it, and we watched it together and would just like quote it incessantly. Like there was a year where it was just, we were really annoying about it, my friends and I, and like we weren't even like movie kids necessarily. We all liked TV and we all liked movies enough, but we were just obsessed with this. We all just liked comedy, I guess. Yeah. And so we were obsessed with this, and there were also midnight screenings every Friday at the former Sunset Lemley, I believe, that Lex G has talked about on his podcast. That it's now an AMC, I think. But yeah, I went to a midnight there when I was like 14. That was the first time I really went to like a movie event that wasn't just like a new release at a multiplex. That was a big deal or whatever.
New Harry Potter.
Yeah, exactly. The new Pirates of the Caribbean, where you had to wait outside to get in or some shit. And I remember like, specifically like this girl that I was in jazz band with at high school, because I was a freshman, and she was a senior and like a prototypical like hipster, and I remember her being surprised that I knew what The Room was. So as a 14-year-old, I was like, oh, this is what it's like to be a hipster. Which of course, this is like 2009, 2010. That's around the peak of the popularity of the movie, probably. Other than like the revitalization when the A24 movie based on Sestero's book comes out. But I read Sestero's book about it, which is very funny, and that gave me a lot of hope for that movie, which was terrible.
You guys have some 3 deep connections to this movie, I would say.
Yeah. And Sestero's book is good because it was written by an actual writer. Like it was Tom Bissell, who's a New Yorker writer, who, was able to, I guess, turn it into, I know it's a much better book than you think it would be.
It's very well written and very funny.
Yeah. When it was kind of at its peak as a sort of Toronto phenomenon, at least in like 2010, 2011, it felt very hipster. And then I remember hearing that kind of within 4 or 5 years, it became a lot frattier.
Yeah.
Like the screenings became like a lot of young men. And there was a general sort of like sexist vibe that was coming from them.
Yeah.
You remember there's a thing that was like one of the Rocky Horror type things that people would do is anytime the Lisa character says that she's incompetent at something, like, oh, you can't support yourself, the audience yells, because you're a woman. And I remember, like, in 2009, it was mostly women who were yelling that because it was fun. It was like reclaiming sexism or whatever. And I got the sense, I feel like I heard that by around 2015, the energy of those chants started to feel a little bit different. I mean, I wasn't going to screenings of The Room in 2015, so I don't know, but that's what I was hearing.
Yeah, I mean, once it became more of a Rocky Horror thing, like, I mean, that's what it was when I saw it at that screening. It was, you know, there's all these, like, semi-scripted things that people go along with, and people just shouting out, like, riffs or whatever, and there's, like, the kind of, you know, what would later be qualified as, like, Reddit humor, where, you know, like, let's say there's a lot of odd pictures of spoons in the production design of the apartment. There's like these framed pictures of spoons, and someone pointed that out in some popular YouTube riff or whatever. So then people started bringing plastic spoons and throwing them at the screen whenever that would appear on screen, you know? And it was this weird thing where, like, it felt like The Room was an inside joke for me and my friends, and then we go to this screening where it should be more of a communal event or something like that, but it did feel a little weird. It was like, I don't like the script. I don't like that everyone has their, like, routines of doing these things. I just like goofing on this dumbass movie with my friends. And I assume there's some people listening to this who weren't around for this at all. Like, our listenership skews pretty much college aged, which would make them, you know, coming into cinephilia when the James Franco movie comes out about this. Like, this is you know, like 2.5 generations of cinephilia removed from The Room. So anyway, that's a long way of saying, Malcolm, that I think it may have already had its rise and fall as a cult object by the time you got around to it.
Definitely, but it's at the same time it's sustained its popularity. Like, I think I have a younger cousin who's into movies, and I'm pretty sure he's seen this. Like, it still kind of holds the mantle as, like, the bad movie to watch and laugh at. I don't think anything's really surpassed that in terms of, you know, popularity, at least.
What sucks is that it's not as funny as I thought it was when I was younger. I did have a bit of a solo stone-faced screening today. Like, there are some things that still make me chuckle, you know, like the way that Tommy Wiseau chuckles throughout that movie, his little like that during the sex scenes, during fight scenes, during comedic scenes, no matter what. He's kind of just doing that as, like, I don't know if it's like a defense mechanism of, like, him being scared to act on camera, just some sort of a fidget that he has.
It's a signature acting move.
Exactly. And, you know, but, like, the contrivances of the plot and stuff like that, it's, you know, you watch it enough and it stops being funny, I guess. But I do think it's definitely an interesting case study for, like, why people think movies are bad, because obviously there's the technical incompetence of it, right? It looks awful. The story is kind of nonsensical, but I think also it's the like earnestness in trying to make, like, a melodrama that falling on its face is much harder to watch and much funnier than, let's say, bad horror movies falling on their face, which I think contributes to why this became such a cult hit.
I think when I first found this movie, when everybody first found this movie, Tommy Wiseau was a very mysterious figure, and a lot of the sort of pleasure of it was like, who is this guy? Like, where does he come from? How did he get to this place? And now he's been pretty demystified. We all know his story. We know he's from Poland, you know, which when you hear, oh, you know, where does he come from? Oh, it's just Poland.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what did I expect? You know, he's, I think, about 70 years old now or so. So a lot of questions have been answered about him. On this viewing, I think what I found sort of most compelling about it is, you know, it is a technically pretty bad movie, but a lot of things about it rise to the level of Tubi slop, basically.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I looked at who the cinematographer was, and on Letterboxd, this is his most popular credit, and everything else is stuff like Shark Attack or like Boa or just a million Tubi slot movies. And so you think this is probably a guy who was just like looking at the Craigslist listings. He's obviously a pretty, a basically proficient journeyman cinematographer who shoots garbage. And he found himself on the set of this movie. All these actors, they're doing what they can. Some are better than others. I think the poor woman who plays Lisa is really trying. And you could imagine that some of these people would be pretty good in a community theater production, maybe. And then there's this chaotic element in the middle of it, which is Tommy Wiseau. And I found that kind of compelling on this viewing. All of these people who are, on the edge of professionalism dealing with this thing. And I remember when I met Tommy Wiseau, he was still very angry about the guy who was the assistant director on this film. I think his name is I forget what his name is, but he was played by Seth Rogen in the movie. He had been doing a bunch of interviews saying he actually directed the movie. He was the one who directed it actually, and he intentionally made it funny. And he bamboozled Tommy. And Tommy was very upset about this. And watching the movie, I think what's clear is that guy probably did do a lot of the heavy lifting, because like whatever basic competence this movie has is probably because there were one or two like decently competent people who wrangled it. And if you look at anything that Tommy did after this, which is like The Neighbors, his sitcom, like there's no guy like that on it.
On Letterboxd, even there's a co-director credit for Sandy Schecler, who is the AD. And I'm surprised that it's gotten to that point. I mean, which does make sense. Like, obviously, I don't think Tommy would have any of the technical skill or capability to even get together like something like this competently, just like a movie.
That said, this is clearly Tommy's vision. Like,
oh yeah.
And so many of the famous decisions, like some of it shot on digital, some of it shot on film, all of the I don't even have to enumerate them. All of the bizarre artistic decisions are his. Yeah. And them being put into practice is thanks to other people, which I guess is how filmmaking works. You have somebody at the top who tells people what to do, and then they do it to the best of their ability.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you pay an AD and a producer and like people like that, enough, they're going to do what they do for other people, even if you, the director, are riding the line between having a mysterious accent and having a speech impediment, and, being mysterious and being mentally challenged, and no one really quite knows where to put the line there, so they kind of tread lightly around you. And in Sestero's book, The Disaster Artist, he does break down Sandy's contributions in pretty great detail. And, it's been probably 12 years since I read that book, but I remember it seeming like Sandy was the engine of production. Like, it is Tommy's artistic vision, but that first AD guy at least should be credited as the producer of the film, and the guy who really made it run. But instead, Sestero is credited as like the line producer and AD, I think, in the movie credits, which is really funny because he was just kind of helping out along the way.
Kind of smaller productions like this, that are, don't reach the incompetence and the hilarity of the room. It's not uncommon, for a first-time director where like the cinematography and the AD are kind of going to be running the show, like especially with someone who, is on an island like Wiseau. Like it makes sense that the AD would take a lot of credit. And is this like I mean, if it's on the Letterboxd, I'm guessing this is like a pretty validated theory. There's a lot of people that believe that he did try to make it funny. Is that the?
Well, it's not that Wiseau tried to make it funny, but this guy Sandy,
that's what I'm saying.
Kind of ran with the tone a little bit, but also it's something that you're never going to know because Wiseau, from what I've read, it seemed his intentions were serious the entire time. And then
Yeah.
he starts running cover and saying that, oh, it's a black comedy. And when I met him, he was doing the laugh the whole time. He was like, aha, I can't wait for you to see the black comedy.
Yeah. This is a man who obviously has no sense of humor at all.
Yeah.
And I think to the extent that the movie's intentionally funny, it's because he's this incredibly strange man surrounded by basically normal people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like most people making the movie kind of knew what was up. And maybe some of them were kind of like JT, that guy who's getting the blowjob and is making the goofy face. Like, I think he knows that's funny. I think he knows he's in a bad movie, Well, also just some of the people in the party scene at the end. There's this new character who shows up.
Oh,
Who perpetually in the movie is introducing new characters, and there's this new guy who I think gives a really sort of aggressively hammy performance that makes me think like he's laying it on a little thick. He knows how stupid this is, but that to me I think is what interested me on this viewing. Again, it's watching normal people react to being in a movie directed by Tommy Wiseau.
And also, it's just like, normal people reacting, and that's within the scene, but then also behind the scenes. Yeah, just like normal people doing their job, carrying out the wishes of an insane person, Like, and I can't say that I like interviewed him or anything like that. I met Tommy real quick one time, but I was with my cronies, and when we took a picture, he like rearranged us for the picture based on the color of our outfits. It's like, oh no, the red shirt goes over here, the yellow shirt over here, and
real auteur.
Yeah, and I was just like, this guy is just like making these weird arbitrary decisions that make no sense. And I don't know. He's just he's got a special brain, and so even if it is at such a lackluster level, to see people carry that out is very funny. One of the examples of a special brain, of course, is something Will alluded to earlier: the side-by-side digital and film shooting. This is a guy who thought that you would need, if digital was the future of cinema, he needed to also shoot his movie on digital, not just make a digital copy of the film or whatever. So they had two cameras running side by side for almost the entire production until they were running out of money. He was using an early HD cam just side by side. And that's also why the framing is fucked up in so many scenes, is because the way he wanted to frame it, if he's running these two cameras side by side at the same time, he can't. So he splits the difference and has both of the cameras next to each other almost lined up the way that the shot should be lined up, which is like,
shooting double barrel.
Yeah, that's a detail that the cinematographer broke down in Greg Sestero's book, or Greg broke down through what the cinematographer told him. But to me, that is like one of the more ludicrous details of the production, and like an example of just like people carrying out the wishes of a crazy person.
Yeah, and it goes to show you that like with these like independent film productions where it's just like a guy who has the money and he makes a movie, you could really just do whatever you want, and as long as you're paying people, like they're like, well, it's not like we're gonna step in for art's sake, we got a job to do. So it's just funny that all these people could be at the whim of just this eccentric guy.
It is one of those things where it's just like because of his eccentricities, I like what follows after is just like incredibly disappointing, because obviously I guess when confronted with the reality, even someone like Tommy Wiseau, who's living in a separate reality almost entirely, like dealing with like complete critical failure must be a pretty damning difficult thing to struggle with. And then just leaning into the direction of like, okay, well, like I'm gonna do like comedy stuff now. Like I remember like hearing about the sitcom The Neighbors that he was doing, because like I don't know, did it wind up being like an Adult Swim thing, Or
That sounds right. I mean, it was released like there was a trailer for it, and then maybe like 5 years later,
yeah,
it
yeah,
came
no,
out somewhere. Yeah.
that was what it was, and I was just like, I don't know. It's just like because there are some like bad movie guys like Neil Breen, who I feel like I haven't really seen any of his stuff, but he seems to have enough money to be able to continue to just produce like whatever like independently and go hog wild with that. But Tommy has like a relatively new movie, like in just doing light research. He has Big Shark from 2023, which is labeled as a like disaster comedy. And it just like, if I don't know, when someone this kind of crazy is like continuing to make work, I appreciate it more when it's in like the outsider like bubble. I feel like the reception of The Room has sort of perverted anything that I think could be interesting about these new like bad movies, especially because it goes into like trying to make like a bad movie, which like I don't know, that in and of itself I feel like is something frustrating to me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And like The Room, we've seen it enough times that it sort of lost all of its impact. But I was able to sort of put myself in the headspace of how funny this would be if you were watching it for the first time. And there's a lot of anger in this movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pain. And I think Tommy's probably, he's not going to give you that anymore. He's become this figure of fun. He may not know what the joke is, but he knows that there is a joke. And so he wants to act like he's in on it. He's also he'll be more self-conscious naturally because everybody's looking at him. This movie he was able to do, in the margins with no expectations. I think this is a reason why the movie, like Tommy Wiseau, is less compelling to me than Ed Wood, because Ed Wood had more to say than this. He had a longer career. I also just like Ed Wood as a guy more. I think I like his vision. I like his personality more than Tommy's, which it feels like he, vented a lot of grievances with this movie. And also, this movie, he's both venting grievances and he's trying to make himself look cool. Those are the two agendas of this film. And then once he's done all that, does he have anything more to say, really? I don't know.
I mean, like Neil Breen is an interesting comparison point, more so than Ed Wood, I would say, because like they're both guys who have become self-conscious of their reputations as like so bad it's good guys, through the internet or whatever. Whereas I mean, Will, you would know more than me. Was Ed Wood making work in response to people saying that his work was the worst ever, or was he just making the cheap movies that he could on his own terms?
Oh, absolutely. He was doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
Ed Wood died 2 years before, the big poll was conducted that called him the worst director of all time.
Mm-hmm.
That said, like Ed Wood knew that people thought his movies were bad. He read the books that were being written about Bela Lugosi. He read he read reviews. He knew that people thought he was bad, and he chafed against that. But he was not. He didn't live to see himself become the worst director of all time. Neil Breen is kind of an interesting case because, my friend Peter Kaplowski, who is in touch with Neil Breen, he's programmed some of Neil Breen's movies. He's shown them here in Toronto. He said that, he's invited Neil Breen to come out. And Breen says, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I just want the work to speak for itself. He's somebody who's kind of taken the opposite approach from Tommy Wiseau in a way. He actually doesn't want to be a figure of fun. I mean, I've seen Neil Breen's most recent movie. I forget what it's called, but it evinces some distressing signs of self-awareness,
Yeah.
some very alarming signs of him trying to be funny. But I kind of respect Neil Breen for not wanting to be this like punching bag on the convention circuit the way that Tommy Wiseau is. That seems to be the way that he's coped with it.
Mm-hmm. Now that we're talking a little more about Ed Wood and other comparisons, I think that's probably going to do it on The Room. Now, here's the thing, though. Usually, we end a movie review by going around giving our rating on a scale of 1 to 5 bullets, but that brings up another point. What is the value of a bad movie that you enjoy? What is the rateability there? What does a rating even mean? Because, you know, is The Room worse than, let's say, I'm trying to think of like a really, really bad movie from the past couple years, like Captain Marvel or something like that. Is The Room worse than that, you know, or Madam Web, or The Materialists, you know? Materialists is actually a great comparison.
I mean,
no, Materialists I think is about equal. I think that's the thing. Materialists is like taking itself more seriously. I gave it a 1 star, right?
Sure.
But I did have a little fun after the fact, like when I was writing about how stupid Materialists was. I was making myself laugh. It was very fun. Is that similar to The Room? You know, like, is The Room deserving more grace because it doesn't take itself as seriously and is more funny than Materialists? I don't know.
I feel like it feels different when it's like a movie that people like says is good and then you watch it and it's bad. Compared to,
so how about like Flight Risk, the Mel Gibson movie from earlier this year? That's a movie people
Five
say
bullets. Five bullets.
I was about to say, actually, we have the wrong guest on there on here for this because we have one of the 5 fans of that movie on the podcast.
Well, I'm thinking of like, I'm a big fan of like Lifetime movies,
sure.
Right? But even like the Stalked by My Doctor series, like that is like somewhat self-aware. The movie that The Room kind of reminds me the most of is like kind of like early Lifetime, where it's kind of done completely in earnest and the reception's bad. I can't search it up, but one of my favorites is this one where like a teenage swimmer becomes addicted to pornography and it ruins his life. And there's just similar elements to The Room where it's like production failures, like, and just like kind of strange decisions about, you know, funny topics. I don't know, because it is like enjoying a bad movie, like something like, it's kind of hard for something to reach The Room levels anymore. Even like it's kind of like, I feel like people are so self-aware that can something like The Room even come out now? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't like Materialist, but I don't think it's like as bad as The Room. That just kind of feels like a different thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Celine Song and Tommy Wiseau are like in the same IQ range probably, but regardless.
I mean, I thought about my rating for The Room because, you know, I think a true like 5 bullet bad movie would have to be a movie that sort of complicates the barrier between good and bad. Mm-hmm. You know, something like a movie like Glen or Glenda, a movie like, you know, Andy Milligan's Fleshpot on 42nd Street, I think is like kind of a beautiful movie in certain ways and also very obviously technically deficient in other ways. I think that's a 5-star or a 5 bullet movie for me.
Sure.
Certain Oscar Michaud films are kind of like that.
Like we've given like Last House on Dead End Street 5 bullets on this podcast. And obviously there are things that like anyone who's worked on a Hollywood set before can watch 3 minutes of that and deem it a failure on a production level, you know?
But then what this movie does have is, first of all, this movie is very funny. It's got a funny thing happening every minute. And I do think it crescendos in the last 20 minutes in a way that like really leaves you're leaving the theater with a song in your heart and a skip in your step after the big suicide scene. So like for a movie that is strictly bad, that has no poetry to it, I think this is about as good as you get. And there are so many bad movies, like any late period Steven Seagal movie, there's no mystery there. There's no kind of subtext of like, oh, who are these people? How did this happen? It's grindingly obvious how those movies happened. But this movie, you know, if you haven't heard the backstory, you're watching it thinking, how did this happen? So I think I would give this 4 bullets.
Wow. JT, what is your rating on this, and any final thoughts on this revisitation of something you once held so dear?
I'm going 3 bullets. I liked it. I still have like a fondness in my heart for it. And I mean, basically what Will is saying, like, there's something so fun about the mystery and just like Tommy Wiseau like cracking open his head and revealing just his attitudes towards women and how cool of a guy he wants to be seen as. There are those things that make it relatively interesting. But yeah, I don't know. This time around, there was just like too much where I was just bored. Like the sex scenes like going on for forever this time did not really again, don't elicit as much laughter as they used to. But like yeah, I don't know. I think there's like a sentimental value here, and again, just like I'm glad that the viewing or I was able to have the viewing again because I don't think like I don't know, just it got an interesting like thought process in my mind because I don't know if I would ever watch like a bad movie with friends anymore and like kind of like pick it apart, like talking through the whole thing. I mean, I've definitely watched like dog shit with people before, but in less of the performative like mystery science theater style way. And yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna pour one out for Tommy.
Pour one out for Tommy.
Rest in peace.
Malcolm, are you going to spit on Tommy Wiseau's grave or drop flowers on it?
You know what? I'll drop some flowers because this is, you know, it is funny. Like Will said, if you came at the mentality of watching this for the first time, it is like his personality is just so alien that it's just, yeah, I still enjoy it to a certain extent. I think, I don't know about your guys' viewings, but it is like, it has to be said that I think, you know, I watch this like alone. Like I do think this type of thing, you get more enjoyment watching it with people. Maybe not at the theater where they're like throwing spoons and, you know, hurling out punchlines or whatever. But, you know, if you're at home on the couch with a few friends, like I think this could still hit, you know, especially if with some people who hadn't seen it before. And, you know, some of the, like, you know, to speak on Wiseau's attitudes towards women, that's the aspect I kind of forgot. I'm like, you know, this movie really does feel, you feel the aspect of Wiseau, like, did he get like cheated on and like write this movie? Like he really does feel scorned.
He was wronged by some
who
dirty
would cheat
tramp.
on the perfect man?
I know, man.
Yeah.
Like, that Adonis, you know, the long hair, and he's got enough money to make a independent movie. You know, he must be doing pretty well.
I just want to enthusiastically second what you said. I think the arch misogyny of this movie gives it some teeth as a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's not just this benign object, and I think that makes it kind of interesting as a bad movie.
She gets called like a tramp like 30 times. Like that dirty tramp.
Well, and like I was saying, you know, you remix this a little bit, put some different music on it. This could go platinum on the YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels circuit of like, I kind of see these kind of, you know, Dar Man, if you're familiar with Dar Man, kind of these like, what would you do type scenario, or just kind of like movie scenes that are like, you know, very pointed, like someone's doing something wrong and you could like shame them. Like there's like you know, those scenes where Lisa's talking to her mom and the mom's, you know, being like, you gotta marry her or marry him, you know, he's gonna provide for you, you know, you don't have a job or whatever. Like, I don't know. I feel like in this, you know, the misogynistic social media world, we could maybe make him, you know, maybe there's a new art
you
for
just
Wiseau.
put some like deep bass, like sort of techno beats under it, and yeah, like some big like sort of whoosh edits. I think I like the vision there.
Yeah, about, you know, finally a movie that exposes, you know, really how these hoes think. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it 3.5 bullets. It is, you know, any fatigue for it is completely understandable. But if you really just try to view it in the purest sense, it's still got something to it. There's still something to the room here.
I have to say I had like I got what our colleague in podcasting calls the bad experience today. I just like didn't, second movie of the day, after coming off something good too,
Yeah, that is
and like I hadn't eaten anything. I was just like, I'll just like make a little sandwich, eat like a bad sandwich in the dark while watching this by myself. Like it was just like a shitty experience that I wasn't in the mood to laugh really. And but the thing is, I remember actually like during COVID maybe is the last time I revisited this. It was maybe a little before that, but it was more like 5 or 6 years ago. And I just remember being by myself in my bedroom at home and just like very stoned by myself, laughing my ass off still. Like, and that was the first time I had watched it in like 6 or 7 years at that point, and so I'll go off that memory and say that it holds up as just like a funny, very individual thing, and say it's a 3-bullet bad movie, and maybe I have like this podcast has shown me more fun bad movies than that. Like in the same realm, I would rather watch the Bratz movie.
Amazing movie. Love that movie.
I would definitely rather watch John Voight, sleepwalk his way through the Bratz movie than this movie. But I still think that I think they're in the same ballpark.
Yeah, Bratz movie is underrated as a great bad movie.
Oh yeah.
But also the context in which you watch The Room is like not squeezing it in after like a really good movie. Like it really it shows that context matters.
It really
for this type of stuff, because it is like we do what we have to do to maintain our podcasting careers, of course.
Of course, yes.
But like it is like like it's ideal. Like you put this on like kind of like late night. It doesn't feel like a middle of the day type view, but it is.
But you know what's great? If you put Citizen Kane on at any point of the day, if you watch Citizen Kane in the morning after work on your phone, it's still pretty good.
Still pretty good. Yeah. You can watch it on VHS with glare coming in on the screen. You still hear that dialogue. It's still good. You know? Yeah. I remember, I think one time we were recording a podcast and I had Citizen Kane on VHS running in the background.
Really? Okay.
Before we started recording. I was just like hanging out with that in the background. I was like, why do I torture myself and like look at the internet and scroll the timeline when I could just watch Citizen Kane,
True. Maybe I'll do, instead of social media, I'm just going to watch Neil Breen, Lifetime, and any social media time I would spend. I'll just watch these bad movies. I'll go Mystery Science 3000 mode.
I did that
just in my personal life.
I did that like a year ago, but less ironic. Like, I took a break from social media like a year ago, probably. Maybe it was more like September of last year, and anytime I wanted to look at Twitter, I just opened whatever book I was reading at the time instead. And it only lasted a month or so, but it was amazing. And I should try to do that again because I've slowed down a little on the reading lately.
So no Lifetime? You're not going to go Lifetime method?
No, I am not. Anyway, that is going to do it on The Room. Now, Will, you have a book out. Ed Wood.
Thank you.
Made in Hollywood, USA. This is a new book by, is this OR Publishing?
That's right. Or Books, I believe
Books.
It's called.
Okay.
They publish a lot of Norman Finkelstein. They have published Zizek.
So your book is like anti-Semitic?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Just kidding. Just kidding, folks.
Yeah. And they publish me now. Yeah. It is. It's going to be available on Amazon and places like that in October to mark Ed Wood's 101st birthday. But everybody and their mother is already buying it at orbooks.com, where you can get it now. So if you are, especially if you're in a city where I'm not going to be, which is I'm going to be in Los Angeles, I'm going to be in Chicago, and looking like New York in October. But if you're in some other city and you don't have an opportunity to meet me and have me autograph the book, please go to orbooks.com and learn all about my friend Ed Wood in my big book.
Now, you have been an Ed Wood fan since you were a wee boy. Is this correct?
That's right. I think I was 6 or 7 when I saw Plan 9 from Outer Space. And I really think, Ed Wood is one of the foundational people for me. He's one of the skeleton keys. There were certain, there were maybe like 3 or 4 guys who just kind of opened the door to lots of other things. You know, you go from Ed Wood to, well, pretty much any paracinema, any like sort of strange or psychotronic cinema for me, it all stems back to Ed Wood, basically.
Now, I think that is a world that we just have not discovered on this podcast. I mean, Will, when you came on the first time, it was a double feature of Ed Wood's Night of the Ghouls and Inland Empire. How would you define that term, that umbrella grouping that you just name dropped, psychotronic cinema?
Oh my goodness. Hang on. Psychotronic cinema. It that was a term that was coined by Michael J. Weldon, who wrote a book called The Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film in the early 80s. And I think it's kind of like the Supreme Court, you know, I know it when I see it. It's a definition like that. It's everything from like, you know, Godzilla movies to Edgar G. Ulmer movies to Bela Lugosi movies to John Waters to like anything that was sort of like a little strange, a little cult, a little bit off the beaten path.
Yeah. Things to watch under the influence of a little bit of God's green herb, if you will, you know. Perhaps if you do indulge in these things.
Hell yeah.
But so you say that Ed Wood is kind of like the starting point, because obviously Bela Lugosi's career arches back further than that, but it's more like the reinterpretation of Bela Lugosi movies, or like his late period ones. Are you saying that kind of are the foundation of that movement?
Yeah, I mean, I well, for me at least.
Yeah.
And you know, with Ed Wood himself, when you start to learn about his life story, like when I saw Plan 9 from Outer Space when I was 7 or 8 years old, I didn't know anything about the history of it. And then when you start to learn about his life and the life of all the people around him, because everybody in his movies has their own like kooky story. His movies, the cast of his movies are these strange assemblages of, you know, faded stars like Bela Lugosi or Lyle Talbot, Los Angeles novelty celebrities like Criswell, Vampira, Tor Johnson, Bunny Breckenridge, and then just weirdos from Ed Wood's own personal entourage. And all of them have a bizarre story, and all of their stories kind of lead you down different paths. And they're all, everyone in his movies is quintessentially Hollywood in a different way. Yeah. I feel like I'm losing my train of thought, but I hope that expresses. Yeah.
So what are you doing out in LA for the tour stops? Because I know LA and New York are two big listener bases, kind of. Where are you going to be out here for promoting the book?
Yeah. So on Saturday, August 30th, the big thing is I will be at Art Book at Hauser and Wirth LA bookstore. I'm going to be doing a book signing at 3 p.m. Dana Gould will be there.
Wow.
He's kindly agreed to do a Q&A with me about Ed Wood and related matters. I'll sign your book. And later that evening, I'm going to show some Ed Wood movies on VHS at Whammy. It's getting close to sold out. I would say, folks, prioritize if you don't have a ticket to the Whammy thing, come see me at Art Book.
Okay. I see where your allegiances lie. I was going to give another shout out to Whammy, but I will instead say Art Book, a place I've never heard of.
The tickets are almost sold out. We got to get prioritized.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I don't need to sell the other one right now,
exactly.
But I do need to sell some books.
That's true. It's true.
And also, you'll have a more intimate experience with me there. And frankly, why not come to both?
And
that's the key thing.
You can stalk Dana Gould if you go to the first event at Art Book. You can stalk Will Sloan and Dana Gould. You and your friend can, split up, divert from that event and tail each of them.
Just stock is, I'm
not saying that you should. I'm just saying that you could.
You could meet them. How about that?
Speaking of Dana Gould, Will, you seem to be running around with some old school comedy legends now. Dana Gould, and who's next? You gonna link up with Fred Stoller anytime soon?
Yeah, I'm we're going to have a meetup at the grave of Mousy Garner afterwards, and we're all going to try to summon his spirit.
Dana Gould was in a psychotronic movie I PA'd on Free LSD, and actually
Wow.
we share the frame. I'm in the background in one of the shots.
Wow.
So
Wow.
me and Dana are basically old friends. I'm sure he remembers me for sure.
Yeah. Will, I really hope that you start your Q&A with... Now, Dana, I know that you were supposed to be asking questions, but I'm going to ask you, what was your experience like on set with set PA and upgraded to background actor Malcolm Baum on the film Free LSD, which you definitely know the name of and remember shooting?
This guy's a rising character. You're going to want to remember your experience with him.
Exactly. Anyway, so Will, I look forward to and you're going to be doing Evan's event out here too, right? You're going to be doing one of the This Friday events.
Oh, that's right. I'm going to do a little reading on the Friday. So come on out and say hi there.
That's where Ed Wood used to hang out, right? At Gold Diggers.
At Gold Diggers. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to, buy Will Sloan a drink, or even better, buy me a drink at a place where Will Sloan will be, where Ed Wood used to drink, then you go full circle. Because look, I don't got book money.
Bring a full wallet.
Oh yeah, I'm rolling in money. Yeah.
I had one last Ed Wood related question that has been gnawing at me for quite some time now. I know tail end of his career, I guess, later in life, doing a lot of like directing some pornographic films, appearing in some pornographic films. Like on KG, I downloaded, I forget the name of the title. It's on my hard drive somewhere. But are these like, I mean, obviously for the Ed Wood scholars, that worth digging into. But are any of them good? Should I seek out any of these pornos?
Yeah. I mean, look, in all honesty, I would say they are for completists. But
Okay.
if you are a completist, you will find them interesting. I mean, if there's one that I would kind of recommend, it's a softcore one. It's called Take It Out in Trade. I'm not going to tell you won't find it boring at times, but it's got some kind of cool stuff in it. It's got some pretty wild production design. It's got a good sense of humor, and I think it's the Ed Wood movie that most, aside from Glenn or Glenda, that sort of most complicates the idea of him as a bad director, because he makes a lot of, it's just a funny movie. So I do kind of recommend Take It Out in Trade, but if you don't like it, don't get mad at me.
Okay.
One more question. Have you ever seen Ed Wood's penis?
I was thinking that too.
No, which is too bad. There's a movie that he's in called The Love Feast, where he stars in it. It's a softcore film. He plays Mr. Murphy, who's a alleged photographer who places ads for girls to come over to his house for him to take nude photos of, and he seduces them. But the problem is that too many women show up, and they're all on the bed, and he's exhausted. And at the end of the film, they make him wear like a negligee and a dog collar, and they order him around. So there's a bit of turnabout. You do not see his penis in it, but you do see him in big, like billowing briefs.
That is the best pitch I've ever heard for a movie. And also the plot line kind of sounds like it could be done silent. It could be done kind of as the storyline of like an early 2000s rap video. I think that would be like a really good, thing, like intercut that story with Ed Wood rapping to the camera about his experiences. It is a shame that we don't know, what he's packing, what the print looked like, but
we could maybe for that movie we could analyze print. We could do some print analyzation.
But you know what? I think other than that, I know everything I need to know about Ed Wood now.
Yeah.
Who needs the book? Yeah.
No, I meant along with the book.
That's pretty much all you need to know, right? That's the clip notes. So there you go.
So go buy Will's book. I know you already listen to his podcasts, but if you don't do that too, you got to listen to Important Cinema Club and Michael and Us and Will Sloan's Brilliant Thoughts.substack.com. It's all good stuff out there. You know your buddy Will.
That's awfully kind of you to say, because I'm sure you've all outgrown me. So it's magnanimous of you to say that.
Yeah, our listeners right now are, feeling their stomach turn over as they did vocalize in a group chat that they've moved on from ICC to extended clip recently. They're like, oh God, he knows. All right, well, make sure you join the Patreon, everybody. $5 a month, extra episode every single week. This episode is going to be followed up by a Patreon episode on Zodiac. So yeah, we're hiding the good stuff behind the paywall.
San Francisco
This was
movies.
good.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know what I mean. The good movies.
Yeah.
And yeah, go subscribe to my blog. If you listen to the podcast, you'll get a little discount. Get the deal, as it were, on any paid subscription options. Go to vintageviolence.substack.com/clipped, as in I'm so clipped. Goodbye, everybody.
Why? Why is this happening to me? Why? It's over. God, forgive me.
Everything will be all right. Good night, Johnny.